I have any nominations? Do I hear a second to that nomination?
Second.
All in favor of Robert Reese being chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, but we'll still take a vote for the record. All right, those in favor of Robert Reese for Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the 2023 year. Those in favor, Fulmer,
Aye.
Reese,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yay.
Nelson, Lotzenheiser,
Yes.
Copeland, Cahoon. Okay. All right, so that vote was for the affirmative, so Robert Reese, you're now the chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. I guess the next point of business is to nominate a vice chair. And at this time, I would move that we nominate Ms. Sashay Hendricks for vice chair. It has been moved and properly second that Ms. Sashay Hendricks be nominated for the vice chair. We will now entertain a vote.
All right. Those in favor of the motion for Sashay Hendricks for vice chair, those in favor, Fulmer,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Hendricks, Nelson, Lotzenheiser, Copeland, Cahoon. All right. That motion passes. And Ms. Hendricks, you are now the vice chair for the 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals year.
All right, so with that complete, we have officers for the 2023 session, and so now it is public notice announcement.
Yes, sir. And you have that.
In accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to radio and television stations, newspapers, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the county administration office. At this time, I will present the rules of order. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-court. It will take evidence that's presented, and it will hopefully render a decision today for each case. The way that the mechanics of this will work is that the applicant will be allotted up to 15 minutes to present their case. Anyone that has signed up in opposition will be granted up to 3 minutes each to present their opposition. And then the applicant, if necessary, will be allotted up to 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board can extend those times at its discretion as needed. The board may have questions for the applicant and also potentially for anyone signed up to speak. The agenda is ordered as the board requires the conduct of business. Usually the cases are ordered based on the filing date. Some cases may take longer than other cases depending on the complexity of the case, the issues at hand, the number of witnesses, etc. When you are called to testify, please address your remarks to the board. No exchanges between the speaker and the audience. Please, no audience demonstrations or testimony other than from the podium. You are under oath and are being recorded, so please don't make promises to do something that you're not prepared to do. Don't fail to say something that's material to what you do intend to do. And please speak into the microphone. In terms of evidence presented, this is not as formal as a court. We will accept documents that you've submitted, including any kind of last-minute submissions that you may bring today. And those items you submitted will be weighed appropriately. Cases can either be approved, denied, or they could also be granted a conditional decision based on meeting certain conditions. The decisions are final when the minutes are approved, which is typically about 1 month from the meeting or at the next scheduled meeting. If you take any action Before a decision is final, you proceed at your own risk. Any person who may have a substantial interest in the decisions rendered by the board today may request a reconsideration of the decision prior to the approval of the minutes. This reconsideration request must be based on a specific error made by the board. If you have an issue, you may obtain more information about this process from Mr. Geo Price, the zoning administrator. Once the request for reconsideration has been exhausted, any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the board may appeal to the circuit court, and those appeals must be filed within 30 days after the decision of the board has been mailed, and that does not occur until after the minutes have been approved. If you are unhappy with the board's decision today, please follow the reconsideration and appeal process. Please don't voice your displeasure if you're frustrated with the board. A few housekeeping items. Please silence or turn off your phones or pagers. Please make sure that your name is on the sign-in sheet for each case. If you need to come and go, please do it quietly as needed. The board may have occasions to enter into executive session or recess. Anyone that's planning to provide testimony today, please rise. Anyone planning to provide testimony, please rise. If you would, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. That is the public notice announcement. We will proceed with, are there any additions or depletions to the agenda? Any additions or depletions to the agenda? Barring none, then I would ask for a motion to accept the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I motion that we move and accept the minutes as it has been read, as there are no additions or deletions at this time to the agenda.
So it has been moved.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the agenda with no additions. So now we will entertain a vote.
All right, those in favor of the adoption of the agenda, Fulmer?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Nelson? Lotzenheiser?
Yes.
Copeland? Cahoon? All right, that motion passes.
Agenda accepted.
So, Mr. Reach, I think you covered all of the rules of order under your notice, public notice.
All right, so just for you all to know, the rules of order were actually covered under the public notice announcement, so we'll just proceed with the agenda as outlined. So at this time, we'll go to item number 7, and it will be public hearing.
All right. The first, we have one case today, and that is a special exception And so I know everyone's relatively new here, and with this case, and it's been a while, so one of the things I want to do is I want to read into the record the purpose of the special exception. So per section 26-56A of the Richland County Land Development Code, special exceptions are established to provide for the location of those uses that are generally compatible with other land uses within a zoning district. However, because of their unique characteristics or potential impacts on the surrounding neighborhood and the county as a whole, these uses require individual consideration of their location, design, configuration, and/or operation at the particular location proposed. Such individual consideration may also call for the imposition of individualized conditions in order to ensure that the use is appropriate at a particular location and to ensure protection of the public health, safety, and general welfare. Any use identified in this chapter as a special exception in a zoning district shall not be permitted without approval of the Richland County Board of Zoning Appeals in accordance with the requirements and procedures set forth in this section. Go to the first case, which is case 22, a special exception 22-004. The applicant is, Chipotle Penderson Blair. The location of the request is 2044 Hayward Brockington Road, Columbia, South Carolina. The applicant is requesting the Board of Zoning Appeals to hear the request to establish an orphanage on property zone rule, RU. The parcel size is a little about 1.35 acres, and is currently occupied by a residential structure. The applicant proposes, as stated, proposes to use the property in the existing structure to establish a residential care institute, which will be an orphanage. The general area consists of large residentially and undeveloped parcels. As part of the special exception, they have to meet the requirements of section 26-152D19, in addition to the additional criteria for a special exception, which would include traffic impact, vehicle and pedestrian safety, potential impact, noise, lights, fumes, or obstruction of airflow on adjoining property, adverse impact of the proposed use on the aesthetic character of the environs, to include possible need for screening from view, orientation, and spacing of improvements or buildings. Staff has reviewed the application. As stated, the applicant is proposing to utilize the existing residential structure for a residential care institution for adolescent boys ages 12 to 21, which would fall under a level 3 therapeutic. The records indicate that the existing residential structure totals 2,452 square feet. Of that, 1,922 square feet is heated. The applicant proposes to house 13 residents in the 4-bedroom structure. According to the applicant, there will be 3 full-time employees for each of the expected 3 shifts. Staff did not observe any conditions or factors that would negatively impact the properties in the surrounding area by the establishment of this type of development. The applicant proposes to erect a privacy fence on the southern portion of the parcel to provide a buffer between the subject site and the adjacent residentially developed property. Staff's recommendation for this is approval, but it also must note that if granted approval, the proposed project will still be subject to site plan review, which will entail reviews from the Richland County divisions of the planning, engineering, building, and the fire marshal. If granted, it is recommended that the Board of Zoning Appeals review the proposed development schedule to determine if conditions should be applied. It is staff's recommendation that an approval stipulate the following. Plans for the development of the site must be submitted for official review by Richland County within 1 year of the approval of the special exception. and that would be upon the signing of the order. If the stipulation of item 1 is not met, the special exception for the orphanage is voided. The submitted site plan is considered to be a conceptual, another condition would be the submitted site plan is considered to be a conceptual layout for the proposed development. The special exception approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals does not constitute an official site or building plan review or approval. Another condition recommended by staff is that the major changes to the site plan, such as an increase in square footage, height, or orientation of the buildings, will require an additional review and approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. And finally, the zoning administrator shall determine if any requested changes to the special exception are deemed to be major changes. That will be it from the staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And so with that, we will have, this enters into the open public hearing or comment section. And so at this time, we'll ask Ms. Hendricks to lead that proceeding.
We will start with the applicant, Mr. Pohl, Lay, Peniston Blair. I'm asking that all those in favor and/or for will go to the right podium, which will be your right, my left, and those that'll be against will go to the left, your right.
They can go to either one or some recommended. It's just whichever's closer, so everyone will go to.
Okay, I'm gonna call 3 names of each at a time so that we can make this go expeditiously as possible, starting with the applicant, Mrs. Camilla Frank and Thomas Boyles. And when you get to the podium, make sure you state your full name and your address for the record.
Let's also remember that the applicant has up to 15 minutes to present her case, and then each other person will be allotted 3 minutes. So the applicant.
Can't hear her.
Good day, Commissioners. My name is Shirpali Peniston Blair. My maiden name is Shirpali Boyles. I stand before you today as a child advocate. And my question today to everyone is, how are the children in South Carolina? How are the children? We have 4,000 plus children in DSS custody. A third of those children are moving and they are transient because they have no destination to call home. So once again, the question is, how are the children? The children of HHA Cares, 2033 Harriet Brockington Road, are doing well. How do I know? We have 4 high school graduates. We have 86% passing promotion to the next grade. I speak of 2033 Harriet Brockington Road because we are located 100 yards, so 150 plus yards from 2044 Harriet Brockington Road, which is the address we are requesting to house 12 teenage girls. That is her correction, is girls, not males. Our mission is to provide a nurturing environment conducive for adolescents to strive and persevere in this global society. And of course, we can't do that alone. What do? We provide quality services that promote dignity, integrity, empowerment, self-sufficiency, self-esteem, and safety. How are the children of HHA Cares? They are well. Once again, how do I know? We have 4 high school graduates. We have state ambassadors in DSS custody, representing the state of South Carolina in the state of Georgia due to their success in school. They are academic scholars. They are queens. Well, how do you do that with children in DSS custody? You do that by providing quality services. Our platform is social and emotional healing with the use of therapeutic and recreational practices, which includes horticulture and the arts, consisting of walking for mindfulness, landscape design, harvest, arts with reflection, sewing classes, cooking classes, devotion, Bible study every Friday with Grace Life. Thursday, worship with Grace Life, located on Clemson Road. We also attend various churches such as The Rock on Sunday for worship and praise. How do we do that? We do that with recreational and therapeutic practices. We have an in-house physician on call. We also have the privilege of having in-house mental health counseling, who is also our monthly trainer for professional development. Her name is Bernice B. Tucker. We are very, very thankful for all of our community as well as the village. It does take a village to cater to children. It takes a village to raise a child. But children need more than just hierarchical needs. Maslow's theory is children need hierarchical needs, but they also need structural organization. They need exposure. They need opportunities. How do you do that? With a plethora of activities. And these activities, once again, are therapeutic and they are recreational. Madeline Hunter says, when you pour into children, they are able to give it back to you. Harry Wong says that the first 10 days of an adolescent setting in any new setting is crucial to their success or achievement. Everyone wants to feel successful. So why are the children in DSS feel like they are unsuccessful? They feel that way because they have not been exposed. They feel that way because they have a candle and they may need someone to just help keep that candle going. And this is what HHA Cares does. We are making a difference with understanding hearts. We are adapting and responding to our girls. We are valuing the multicultural and multiple intelligences they bring to the table. And lastly, I would say this. How are the children at HHA Cares? They are well. Nevertheless, we do have children, a third of that 4,000, that are transient. They spend the day in the offices of DSS, and they are transported to a bed, and they are picked up in the morning and taken back to that DSS office to sit until bedtime. 12 beds at 2044 Hayward Brockington Road will make a difference. 12 beds for 12 girls who may be transient every night at 8 p.m. from that DSS office to an individual bed of a foster parent. That same child is picked up at 6 a.m. and heads back to the DSS office. 12 beds can make a difference whether or not a child graduates from high school, whether or not a child is a graduate, first generational graduate of high school and college. 12 beds at 2044 Hayward Brockington Road. Thank you.
Madam Blair, thank you for your testimony, but can you so have it for the record to state your actual address? Because I don't think you gave it to us in the beginning.
Shapali Peniston Blair, 319 View Drive, Blythewood, South Carolina, 29016.
Thank you, ma'am.
So before we go into any other comments, are there any questions? Are any questions for Ms. Peniston Blair?
Yeah, and I did catch a couple of things. Number one, it is not, it's for girls. This-
Absolutely. We are asking for girls, ages 12 to 21.
And it's 12, not 13.
Correct.
So one of the questions I have is how do we as a board ensure that there's not 15 or 20 or 30? How do we limit that? Or if it's approved, do we always say that it's only 12 folks that can live there?
If the project is approved, Richland County comes and do an inspection.
That's DSS does?
First is Richland County Fire Department, then Richland County to make sure that I am in code with commercial. And then we have DHEC, DSS last.
The last question, you had mentioned something, can we put this up on the screen, this document? You had said something about you lived, I didn't hear, do you live beside this property?
2033 Harry Brockington Road is the existing HHA Cares, which house 13 girls. 2033 Hayward Brockington Road, and 2044 is, I would say, a little, maybe 150 plus yards away from the existing group home.
Oh, okay. So I need clarity.
Okay.
And this was one of the questions that I was going to ask is, do you have a history of doing this work elsewhere? And so you're saying that you have a facility. I want to make sure,
Yes.
if you could, just for clarity's sake, you have a facility that is adjacent or close to?
Existing group home for teenage girls. The language now is residential institution care for ages 12 through 21.
And so I'll save my questions afterwards. Any additional ones?
You stated that their age is 12 to 21, but they're in DSS care. Is it normal for a person above the age of 18 to be in DSS care if they do not have some sort of mental incapacity?
We have had girls court ordered to be in our care to the ages 21, DSS. I am not DSS, I am a provider for DSS.
So we've got the map up, I think. Can you, what was the address?
2044 is the request. 2033 is the existing residential care institution.
There is also a where you are, an adult care facility.
We are about, I would say, 2 miles away from the adult care facility. I believe it's 3 houses, if I'm not mistaken.
Any additional questions?
I do have a question for planning, and that is on definitions on orphanages. What makes an orphanage? Or I'm sorry, I mean, I'm looking at, and this is to our, we're referencing, or we're dealing with it because it's defined as an orphanage, and we have to go through the special exemption. And my question is what's the difference between an orphanage and a halfway house? Or I'm just trying to understand what makes it an orphanage, because I think an orphanage is a little younger children.
If you would, let that question be directed to Geo and Planning, because I'm assuming that the Planning Department has already done its due diligence in classifying it correctly.
I'm just wondering,
While he's searching for that, any more questions for Ms. Penderson Blair? Seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And you also have an opportunity at the end to then do a rebuttal. Okay, so thank you.
Do I have your permission to, this is the procedural manual 4?
Did you bring that as evidence for this board to consider? then that can be brought to our attention at this time. So if you just leave that there. Sir, if you would just hold 1 second for me, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are some within the Richland County Land Development Code, there are a number of uses that are defined within the actual chapter 26. Those are very specific of your land development code. But there are many other uses, especially those defined within the matrix of land uses that fall under the 2002 NAICS code. And those are, those uses, according to the code,
It really doesn't matter because it's also rooming and boarding houses are included too. I was just wondering about
no,
the
just for the,
word-
just for the
words.
records, our findings. So the NAICS is the North American Industry Classification System, which was used when we adopted the Richland County Land Development Code back in 2015. And we use those, and they're not definitions, but they're guidelines for how a use should be classified. However, in some cases, even when I'm looking within the NAICS for a use, it really doesn't give you a specific guidance, or I guess, again, I'm trying to stay away from the word term definition, but establishing what that use may be. So in those cases, we will go with the standard dictionary definition for it. So I was just pulling this up because we actually went through this exercise to make sure that this is the category it will fall under. And so an orphanage is, essentially, it is a facility for orphans. And within orphans, I know many times that we tend to think of as, parents may be dead. Next, I actually found one of that definition. But again, if you go further into definitions, it can be a place where children without parents are cared for and housed. If a child has no parents because the parents died or lost custody, the child is considered an orphanage. So essentially, you could have a case where maybe the kids don't have parents due to death, but then you also may have some parents could be incarcerated, parents could have some issues that will prevent them from caring for them, so they would all fall into this category. So that's the reason why they fell into this particular use type within our matrix and why they're here before you today as a special exception.
And so, Mr. Price, it is your contention that, or your assertion to this board that this piece of property falls under that special use category?
Yes, the property is zone rural, and thus it is a special exception to establish this use. And so, yes.
So Mr. Thomas Boyles, and we had a Camilla Frink. Was that
Well, I'm Thomas Boyles.
okay?
I don't see Camilla Frank. Oh, you here?
Not
Oh,
gonna
she's
speak.
not gonna speak. So
Okay, I stand corrected. So Mr. Boyles, if you would state your name and address for the record before you start speaking.
All right, my name is Thomas Boyles, and I'm at 423 Tollwood Drive, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203. I mean, after Shapali Penniston is my sister. After her delivery, I mean, it's kind of hard to come behind that, But I would like to say that when she asked that question, how is the children, her heart is really there, and that makes a big difference between those kids having someone that cares about them and someone that's just providing the service. And there's a big difference. And like she said, her kids are prospering from the time they come to the facility where she's currently at to, matter of months, you can instantly see their self-worth change, their value, how they look at themselves change, and how they talk and how they act, with expectations. Their expectations of life has changed. And I'm just here to support her because I know she's doing a good thing. And I know it's something that's very beneficial and much needed, in our communities, So if y'all have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Boyles. There's nothing from the board at this time. Lamaris Boyles and
All right.
Carmen Murray, thank you.
Good evening. Protocol has been established on the floor. My name is Lamaris Boyles, and I stand against this proposal, being in that community, having experience with a home that is currently there. There has been various obstacles, I feel, in the community. We witnessed several observations of Richland County, ambulances going in and out. It seems to me that these young ladies are being labeled as children, but it seems to me these are mature adults with mental challenges. With that being said, I don't feel like it's a safe environment to actually even put up another children's home when it appears that the ladies that are in the current home are running away. There seems to be issues. So that is why I am against this proposal. And let me make it known, I have a heart for all people, children, especially women with mental challenges. I believe that they should be in an environment that will truly take them to the next level. Yes, sir. I live at 2051 Hayward Brockington Road, which would be across the street from the proposed home.
Thank you, Ms. Boyles. We don't have any further questions.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carmen Murray.
My name is Carmen Murray at 2028 Hayward Brockington Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203. I live diagonal to the present facility. I spend a lot of time in my yard or on my porch. I have seen the girls running away from the facility. I've heard them hollering, screaming, and fighting in the woods behind there. I've also come to find out that when they ran away sometimes, I have 2 large sheds. They would hide behind my shed on my property, which is a danger to me. This current facility is adjacent to my daughter's home, where again, I have access. I find this to be problematic because there are certain things that are in place for my grandsons that will automatically be thought of by these orphans that they are privileged to use it. That is not a fact. The police cars, the ambulance, the fire trucks, I have seen it, I have heard it, and I've heard the girls. And I've heard some of the counselors who are talking to the girls, not talking, they're hollering at them. So heartfelt, that's all good. I love kids. If you need help, I will help you. But this situation, both across from me and adjacent to my daughter's property, it's not going to be a thing that works. Because elements change, people change. You have security guards. Why do you need security guards for an orphanage?
Thank you, Ms. Murray. If you could just stand at the podium for 1 second, just to be sure no one has any questions for you.
Well, I did have a question for Ms. Murray, and this is just for your opinion. It says in this briefing that if this is approved, that the applicant proposes to erect a privacy fence on the southern portion, how do you feel that that would sort of impact, or would that have an impact on what you've noticed in the past, or what you perceive to be the problem in the future?
The fence is already erected, complete. Whether it goes across the front of the property, I don't know. But anybody can jump a fence, anybody can walk around a fence, because 2036 is open front side. So all you have to do is walk down to the end of the road, go past the mailbox, walk up my daughter's driveway, and you're in her backyard, side yard, backyard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now can we hear from Mr. William Boyles, Bernard Tucker, and Sean Boyles in that order, please?
Greetings, Chairman and board members. The U.S. Department of Health, Human Health and Services Children's Bureau, which is the Office of Administration for Children and Families, reported in 2020 that more than 4 million children are in the welfare system, and over 3,900,000 are in foster care. 90% of these children will experience severe trauma. Only 50% will reunite with their biological families. 25% will attempt suicide. And that's just for those who are still in the system. For the 23,000 young adults who age out each year, 81% of young men will become incarcerated. 71% of young women will be pregnant before the age of 23. With half of their children destined to be in foster care. 40% will be homeless within 18 months. 97% of these young adults will immediately enter into poverty. The South Carolina Department of Social Services published the data for the needs of foster care placement on their website, and the data that I'm going to read is from the June 1st, 2023 data. It states the following: South Carolina has a total of 3,764 children in foster care, and 1,968 are in need of placement. The Midlands area make up 1,365 children in foster care, and 693 are in need of placement. In Richland County alone makes up 583 children in foster care, and 254 children are in need of placement. I am in support. It is written that the Musa African tribe in Kenya came up with the term, "How are the children?" The children are well. That's the expected response, meaning we are protecting our children, making them our priority, ensuring they are growing in a healthy, loving environment, that adult challenges are not an excuse to neglect the proper care of our children. Thank you.
Mr. Boyles, could you also state your name and address for us,
Yes.
please?
William Boyles, 1321 Hardscrabble Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203.
Thank you. Any board members at this time?
Okay. Sean Boyles, 2051 Haywood Brockington Road. The board's going to have to excuse me. I didn't rehearse or prepare anything to talk, but that all sounds good. But the bottom line is, it's a girls' home. It's a girls' home for troubled girls. We didn't have anything to judge of how that would impact our neighborhood until they opened the first one. And then one incident after another, just going on and on and on. So if we allow this to happen again, how big is it going to get? Are we opening the gate for a private penitentiary? I mean, what are we doing? We need to stop this and ask how are the children? How are our children? Who has to live around there? I'm all for these type of situations, but not in our community where it affects our children. We have to think about them first and not just something to make a dollar, you know?
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Boyles? Yes, Mr. Boyles, thank you.
All right.
Ms. Bernice Tucker? I believe this is Charles Mills and Audrey McKenzie. You're not speaking? Okay. Yvonne Murray Boyles.
Good afternoon. I'm Bernice Tucker. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I am a licensed mental health therapist for the state of South Carolina, and I don't want to reiterate what Ms. Blair has already spoken about. I am in approval of her new group home. I worked there for the last 2 years as her mental health therapist. And just to give you a little background about me, I've worked for the Department of Mental Health, Bryan Psychiatric. I worked for Lee Correctional Institution in Bishopville, and I retired from Camille Graham's Correctional Institution here on Broad River Road. So as you can see, I have a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge. The 2 years that I've worked with HHA Care, I was providing treatment for the girls there. And again, the girls were from 12 to 21. I saw a direct correlation with these girls at HHA to the women that I provided treatment with at Camille Graham. And so I'm here today just to say that there is a gap with that age range from 12 to 25. The children that I treated at HHA Care, they presented the same issues of the women that I treated at Camille Graham. So there's a gap. And in working with the two incidents, I saw where that gap was being bridged with the therapy, the treatment, and all the fundamental skills and tools
You all would just bear with us just a few minutes more.
Tony.
And I think it's only fair that I make this comment that we are allowing additional individuals to sign in. So if there's someone who is in the room currently who did not get a chance to sign in, I want everybody to have the same opportunity to sign up. So if you would, just hold that sheet down there, and in that way, anybody who's interested can still sign up.
I think it was just a surge. It's a surge.
Call. Anyone who wants to sign in, last call. All right, thank you. So if we would do this, is it Ms. Esther Samuels, Valerie Samuels Brown, Troy Green, and Mr. Gibson? If you all would please stand. And while we're waiting for this deal, we can swear you all in. Oh, only if you're speaking in, only if you're speaking.
Recording in progress.
Ursula Towns? Are speaking, ma'am, or?
I am speaking, and I was here for the swearing in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
All right, so only one additional person to speak. So if you would raise your right hand, Okay. Swear you in at a later time.
Recording in progress.
Okay, Ms. Tucker, you may go ahead and continue.
Well, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'd like to think that it was a surge instead of my speaking that caused the power outage. But let me just say briefly.
1 second, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry again, Mr. Reese, if you don't mind, would you kind of just announce what the gap was between when she was speaking before and why? In case, when the recordings come up, that's just gonna be a big gap in there, so if you don't mind.
For the record, we'd like to indicate that we had a power surge and all of the computers went down, and so now we are resuming this meeting at 4 o'clock, 7 minutes, 4:07 p.m. So we're resuming the meeting.
Thank you. And again, this is Bernice Tucker speaking. I'd like to reiterate that I am a licensed mental health therapist for the state of South Carolina, retired. I work with HHA Care, and previously I was talking about the gap between the children between the ages of 12 to 21 in comparison to the women that I was able to treat when I worked at the correctional institution. I found that there was a direct impact on what these 12-year-olds were experiencing in terms of depression, anxiety, physical, sexual abuse. All of those incidences that I was able to talk with these young girls about were the same stories that I was hearing as I was treating adult women living at Camille Graham. And the reason that I'm here is because I want to help Ms. Blair to fill that gap so that if these children from 12 to 21 could stay and live in a stable environment, that they can get structure. Hopefully, prayerfully, they will become productive members of society where they're not, as an adult, placed into the correctional institutions. That's pretty much my stance in asking for the approval for Ms. Blair so that we could fill that gap. There is a gap. The gap is certain. I have witnessed it in dealing with the teenagers and then also dealing with the women that are currently incarcerated. And so my urgency here is just to ask that you really review, look at the evidence, think about what it is that we're trying to build.
Ms. Tucker, I'm sorry, we have to interject at this time because you're actually out of time.
Okay.
However, do any board members have any questions for Ms. Tucker?
Ms. Tucker, I just wanted to clarify just for my own. You indicated that you were a licensed mental health specialist. I hope I'm not saying
am a
that wrong.
licensed mental health therapist.
You are still
Yes.
licensed, and you are retired. That's what I wanted to clarify, that you still had your credentials, because I knew that
I
was
do have my credentials. I retired from the Department of Corrections, but I've maintained my credentials as of today.
And you advocate for children. My head continues to draw a line between children and what I'm clearly hearing as adults at 21. That to me, it's an adult.
Right.
But do you have any? What is your take on the fact that these people are being housed together? Because we're talking about maybe 12-year-olds that have issues, physical, mental issues that relate to their age and size, but then we have adults that are also dealing with the same thing. And when you commingle those ages, sometimes it muddies the waters quite a bit as it relates to providing care and services.
What are my thoughts on that? My thoughts are that in an environment such as HHA Care, you have to have a social interaction. And so they're learning from each other, which means that these children are learning and understanding that they're not alone, that because a situation has happened to me, it has happened to someone else. So it doesn't allow them to feel that this is an individual thing. And they could pretty much learn from each other in a way of how to cope with their situations, because there's other situations that are out there. And you also have to keep in mind that in the prison system, they are all together, living together, dealing with individual issues that they may have, and they have to coexist in that environment as well. My biggest issue is to stop that gap or fill that gap so that they won't be placed in the institutionals.
Just to kind of caveat off of what Commissioner Annette said, my question would be, you made a point to say urgency as far as Camille Graham, and I know Camille Graham is a level 1, it may be a level 1 or a level 2 at this point. So urgency over safety, what is your take on that when you talk about community? Because you can't really, in my opinion, you can't compare the two, because you do things to be incarcerated on a level that clearly is an affection to the community. So from what you were saying, you were kind of comparing these young ladies and those that you've dealt with of having similar issues.
Right.
So how do you feel that is going to take place and may be safety for those in the community that may be against it and those that are for it when it comes to the overall environment, trying to keep them from being housed in Camille Graham?
Well, when you look at the situation of a child in foster care within itself, there's issues that these children in foster care have to deal with. In an environment such as a group home, you're getting stability. You're being stable. You're socially engaging with each other. They're offered opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily be offered living in a foster home setting. I indicate the word urgency because there is that gap for this age limit, the 12 to 25, being incarcerated and living in a children's home. The urgency is that we want to be able to stop these young girls from ending up in prison. And let me just say that all of the girls don't go to prison. We have a great number of girls that are in the home that have succeeded, that have moved on and done things. But for the ones that are unable to grasp the structure that's provided there, those are the ones where the urgency would come into place.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
No.
Okay.
As the timekeeper, if you would, to set the time for the responses as well, so at least we can have half of the time for a response.
Good afternoon. I'm Charles. Excuse me. Good afternoon. I'm Charles Mills, 5526 North Main Street, Columbia. Can I keep going now? All right. Good. I'm one of the children from that community. I grew up in that community in several different areas, but in the same community. I used to walk up and down the same streets that we're talking about, roads that we're talking about. I am a mental health professional. That's what I do by trade. I worked for the Department of Mental Health for 27 years, and I told them that I wanted to go home and relax. Actually, for 13 years, I've actually been a manager of group homes on Fairfield Road near Meadow Lake Park for a company called Mercy, Inc., a wonderful company. I ran those homes, and I decided that I didn't want to be in charge anymore, and I wanted to come experience something new. I've always dealt with children being in the Department of Mental Health, but at this time, I heard about the group home, and I wanted to come do something light with my retirement. When I got there, the first thing I experienced was love. People can say what they want to say, but Ms. Blair built this place off of love, and she's trying to do the same thing again in our same community. I understand that it's going to be ups and downs, and people are absolutely right that they saw police cars and ambulances, because we are dealing with some ladies that sometimes need some help. These people were snatched out of their homes because their mothers were on crack and whatever. These girls are not demons. They just came from rough situations, and they're not the people that they're being demonized as. These are women that are going to school. These are women that are doing well. They do have problems sometimes, but what I will challenge this room is to look at the fact that this company was brand new when a lot of that stuff was happening. That home was new. When I got there, it was there just for a few months, and we did go through growing pains, but it's going to be growing pains with any new business that you start. But the place itself is structured like it needs to be by guidelines. But the staff members that are there are pouring out their hearts to make sure these girls are straight. These are girls. These are not women. These are girls. I'm one of 2 male staff that work there. Every day that I go, because I'm a male working with females, I put my life in jeopardy. All right, and when I say my life, is because accusations can ruin a man. But God is carrying me, and that's not what I'm there for. These ladies are doing everything they can to succeed. The ones that are trouble, and that's just like any one of us, all of us in this room could be trouble if we've been through certain things, but the ones that are trouble, they're gonna move on to other situations. These girls are not killers, they're not fighters as they're being demonized. Sometimes they're teenagers, they're gonna go through things. I went through things in my neighborhood. It's just different. Lately, we have not had any situations like that. In those situations, when you call 911, you're calling 911 to have some help, not because a crime was committed. Those people came for crimes. A lot of times when you would see, my 3 minutes up?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Could you stand for 1 second just to be sure no one has any questions for you? All right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mills. Ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Murray Boyles. I reside at 2036 Haywood Brockington Road, which is next door to the proposed location.
Boyles, hold for me 1 second.
I dismissed this timer from the last session. It's on the corner screen. Just need to hit the dismiss button.
It's fine.
So that you get all of your time.
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Okay. So first thing I want to say is, as a family court attorney who works with DSS, DSS does not control any child over the age of 18. DSS also does not send any children to orphanages. We've got Epworth, we've got Safeway. Children through the DSS program go to foster care or residential care facilities. This is not an orphanage. This started out, I believe we're here 2 months ago, as a residential facility for level 3 boys. Then it went to a residential facility for level 3 girls. Today it's an orphanage. DSS does not send children to orphanages, nor do they have the power over any minor that's over the age of 18. At that time, they're emancipated. But I think I want to pull the board into why we're here. We're here for a special exception and whether or not they meet those requirements. We're not here to determine whether we need more group homes. Of course we do. But that's not why we're here. Do they meet the exceptions? And I heard everything that's said, but I would like objective proof. So what I have for you guys to look through, and it may take you a day or two, police records. From the day this business opened in 2021 until I think April of 2023. Assault. There's a police statement in here when an officer says, this place should be closed. And this is factual evidence. It sounds good, but I live on this street. And I might get emotional, but anyway. I moved to Hayward Brockton Road in 1997 with my 1-year-old son. Great community to raise him. I have an 18-year-old son and a 1-year-old grandson. My mom moved here to help me. My mother-in-law, these people, this is all family. Everybody in here is a Boyles, period. It's family. But you're not going to change the way, when I look at my house 2 weeks ago, I'm on my porch. 911 called, yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. This place does not meet the exceptions. The proposed special exception will not have a substantial adverse impact on adjoining properties. It has impact on my property. I've got a privacy fence from one end to the other. Where I live now, I moved there 2002. Beautiful community, nothing but woods behind us. But it's changing. We didn't know when Chapali opened up the first one that it would be like this. I don't want to have to keep looking on my porch to her house to see what's going on. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be having to lock my stuff up, not letting my kids run in the yard, do whatever they want to do because of children that cannot be controlled. You saying you want to get security guards? Why do you need security guards? Is it that bad that you need it? So if I have anything at my house, should I be concerned? Do I have to put cameras on I don't have cameras on my property.
Ms. Boyles.
I'm sorry, my 3 minutes. That's the
Yes.
fastest 3 minutes.
It is. We thank you, but could you stand a second to be
Sure.
sure no one has questions?
Sure.
So I have a question for the zoning administrator. Boyles just indicated that this zoning request was originally instituted under another filing. Is that accurate?
Nothing has changed from when we attempted to meet previously. I think the main changes that we have was the gender of the residents, and the number went from 13 to 12.
So
I would say that, I'm sorry. I don't know if I can interject, but that's not correct. We actually, if you're going to do a residential care facility, it's different from an orphanage. And also, the sign in front of the property went from there were some issues with that. I don't know who put it out, but that's not what the signage actually says. Actually, it doesn't say it's an orphanage. But it started as a residential care facility for level 3 boys. So to say today it's the same, it's not. That's not the same thing as an orphanage.
Thank you.
So, that was the first thing. That was what y'all wrote the first time.
Have my phone. If the board needs, I have a picture of every sign that was posted so that it'll show you exactly what it initially started as to what it is now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boyles. Tamika McDuffie, Beverly Holiday, Debbie Javis.
Before we go on to the next persons with comments, you did say that you had some information that you wanted to share with us. You gave that, okay, perfect. Don't worry, we'll get a copy.
And we don't mean to sound redundant or repeat names, but if you signed in on protocol, we have to go by the names because this list was for all those who were, partaking and speaking. But if you're choosing not to and your name is called, you don't have to come up. Just state your name and address for the record when you get the okay to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tamika McDuffie. I'm at 104 Cannondale Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 29212. I'm here today to support Ms. Boyles. I am a principal inside of Camille Graham. Actually, I'm over 5 institutions. I'm also a community advocate. I'm also a child advocate and a former foster parent of therapeutic children for over 10 years. What I wanted to share today is some of the issues described, especially like with police involvement and so forth. As a foster parent, that is definitely what I experienced dealing with foster children. I think that's just a part of being a foster care person, in this case, a facility, is as a mental health specialist have expressed the trauma these children have experienced, just the idea of being taken from their home. That's just a part of what you deal with these children. I see the other side of it inside the prison system. As I stated, I'm over 5 institutions as a school principal, and my position as an advocate is to try to avoid the children from coming inside. HHA children have come into my community camp through Allen University. It's a STEM program. We've served those children there. This summer, we had no issues with them at all. Again, trying to expose them to just education and, things in a different light. So I just wanted to shed light just from different perspectives and to say, yes, we are trying to bridge that gap, all of us in support of Ms. Blair. And, what are we going to do with the children? Are we just going to throw away the key? She is one that is advocating for them, along with a lot of us here, and we're trying to help. We're trying to educate the children so that they can be productive citizens in our society.
Thank you, Ms. McDuffie. Does the board have any questions? Okay, you may be seated. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, for clarification on the sign, the original sign did have some information about the therapeutic portion that was referenced, but it's upon seeing what the sign was, we immediately replaced it to include the orphanage, because I think what was written was deemed to be incorrect, but we did replace the sign before the meeting. So it was up, I believe, on the 31st of July, when we went back and replaced the signage on the property to accurately reflect what the special exception request was.
Was the special, let me get this term right. Was the special exception request, was that a part of the designation for the first signage that you had as well? Or did the special exceptions criteria change when the signage changed?
So nothing really changed. It was going to be a special exception anyway. So what the language that was placed on the first sign was more detailed with what Miss, I'm going to make sure I'm saying that right, Miss Peniston Blair was proposing. So as you kind of read into, like the staff reports, so when we mentioned level 3 therapeutic, that's the kind of information that was put on the sign. That was not the intent. The intent was just to put it on which type of category within our land development code it will fall under. So that was what was replaced to actually reflect orphanage. And we would allow the applicant to speak further about the type of individuals that will be there. But the contention from staff is that it still falls in the category of an orphanage.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're just establishing land use, and so orphanage is the use. Now again, as any applicant come in and talk more specifically about the clientele that was there, but that does not change the use category that was deemed to be needed for the special exception.
Ms. Boyles, if you would hold your comments until the end, and then we'll allow you an opportunity to come right back up, because I do want to hear the rebuttal.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Beverly Holliday, 1812 Highbrook Drive, Columbia, South Carolina, 29212. I'm here in support of Ms. Blair for this home that she's trying to establish for additional young ladies. As a former educator, you have to really see what it means when someone comes in and take a child from school and they can't go back home from where they originally came from. It's very devastating. Currently, I work within the Department of Corrections. I am the Director of Adult Education as well as the Assistant Superintendent, and there are 21 institutions within the state of South Carolina. And so what I do a lot is travel throughout the state to see the young people as well as the older people that are incarcerated, the 17 to 21-year-olds. Those students fall within this range of the home that Ms. Blair is trying to establish, and they have some very traumatic experiences. And so if she can help prevent that and keep the students in a stable place, keep the young people in a stable place, whereas they won't end up within the Department of Corrections or on the streets or other places that they should not be, and have a safe environment where they can live and grow and become successful, productive citizens, I'm all for that, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, ma'am. Barbara Robinson, Vivian Patterson, Debbie Javis, Helen Boyles. We have a Caroline Boyles, please. Are you speaking, ma'am? Yes. Okay, we can wait until she's done before you have to stand up. Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ready? Good evening, board. My name is Barbara Robinson, 5412 Wright Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Shapali Blair. I'm a staff member. I was hired in February of 2023. What I have seen so far, the girls are coming from different homes, different environments. And what I've seen so far is love. They need to be loved. They want to be loved. Different circumstances and situations, when you are taken away from your environment and taken into a different environment, it's hard. So you're gonna react. You're gonna react different. But that's what the girls want. They want and need love. And I never been to a group. I've worked at group homes before. Like the meals are microwave, snacks, and no nourishment. She provides breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. We have devotions. They go to church. We have counsel, and then also the staff is excellent. All the staff members are excellent with the girls. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Board members. right, thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Vivian Patterson. I am Shirpali's aunt, but I am going to read 2 letters of support from Grace Life Church of Clemson Road, but I am a member of Word of God. And I wanted to say that on Sunday, those girls were brought to my church. I had never seen them before, and I thought that they were going to be big, huge people, but they were babies. And they went up to the altar for prayer, and my daughter said, "I think those Polly's girls." I said, "You know what? That might be," because see, we had black, white, all colors that were up there. And they came up for prayer. And then they took them in the back, and I just had to go speak to them and let them know who I was. And I helped my out to those children. And I'm calling them children because in my mind, I thought they were huge. You know, I just thought they were big people, grown people, old people, but they were babies. And I started crying, and I prayed for them. But all of them ran up to me to hug me. They didn't know me. I just said I was Polly's aunt. But I want to let you know that there is obviously some change going on. These girls sought the Lord. They came up to be prayed for. And I think some of them may be baptized in September. I didn't stay in the back because they have individual counselors, but I want to let you know this happened on Sunday. So God must be had me here for a purpose, because Polly asked me to read these letters from Grace Life Church of Clemson Road. And the first letter is from Deborah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Okay. For these cases, you know, individuals are allowed to come and speak, essentially give their own testimony. Anything that is outside of that, whether it be a petition, letters from someone else that they would need to read, instead of reading those, they would just need to submit those, and we can provide that to the board just as other additional information.
Patterson, you can finish with your testimony. However, just those letters, just pass them down, and we will look at them.
I'll pass the letters down, but I'm so emotional right now because I was emotional on Sunday because I thought that they were grown bad girls. I know how Lamar's feel, because I know when I never met them, I never saw them. But when they came up to our church, I saw a different type of children. They are children, they're babies. And that's why I'm so emotional. But I do support my niece. That house that group home is in was her mom's house. My sister took in 5 foster children over Polly's lifetime, Polly being the oldest child. She helped raise those 5 foster children. My family was totally against it. But their family, Polly came up in a family filled with love and willing to give to others. That foster home, the way those babies ran up to me, they need love, they need care, they need someone who's gonna care for them. When I visited that foster home before they got there, it was a calm, a place for somebody to come and live and be loved. And I stand in support of my niece, and thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Ms. Geraldine Boyles, we'll give you a few minutes to get up here. Thomas Boyles and Patricia Davis Ford. Errol McKenzie.
Thank you for having me, board. My name is Geraldine Boyles. I live at 1321 Hardscrap Road. 2033 used to be my home for 48 years. And I told Shapali, I said, Shapali, I'm gonna let you turn this home into a group home. We've been talking about it and talking about it. I said, I think it's time. But before that time, she had experience with the foster children that came through my home. I adopted 3 of the 5 that I had. I just want to say that some of the things that I heard was taken out of context and wasn't true. And the girls come to us with a lot of problems, that's true. But I promise you, before they leave there, they are good girls. Right now, our oldest girl is 18 years old. Our youngest is 12. And we want to open up a group home, another group home, because we want to help those 12 more girls develop a structured environment and everything. Do you have any questions for me?
I want to make sure I get clarity. So the home that is currently occupied as a group home, that was the home that you resided in for X number of years?
48 years.
For 48 years. And so that particular home, you then allowed your daughter to then start that first group home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I just wanted that clarity. Thank you. Just so I know a little bit about the chain of command of how things have been operating.
Yes, and it's like I said before, we are therapeutic. The girls come to us with issues, but before they leave there, I promise you they're on solid ground. And just so you know that I know we was on an oath to tell the truth, and some people didn't tell the truth today.
We're going to thank you for your comments, and we're going to thank you for your comments, and I'm just going to I'm going to take everybody for their word that when they swear to tell the truth, that they are telling the truth. So thank you all for your comments.
How you doing? My name is Daryl McKenzie. I reside at 816 Campground Road, Columbia, 29203. Let's address this elephant in this room, and we can put lipstick on this pig if we want to. Understand something. The thing that we haven't talked about yet is our seniors. These people toil, they pay taxes, they vote, they go to church, they built our neighborhood. My mother-in-law is Helene Boyles, who lives right across the street. My daughter, Alicia, lives right across the street. My mother, Juanita, lives right up the street. Right here, we're all affected. None of them live in our neighborhood. This is our neighborhood. This is where my mother lives at. This is where I see Miss Boyles. This is where I see Miss Murray out there with them flowers every day. Every day. I learned about me about them. I learned about flowers from them. And I know how to eat because they feed me. Understand something. My job as a young man, as a man now, is to provide what they provided for me, protection. We talk about one thing, security. Let's talk about security, okay? We got one house already that's got 300 cases. We're gonna put another house 150 feet from that, 150 yards from that? What are we thinking? I don't mean to be harsh, but I love my mother, I love my mother-in-law, I love all my seniors. They have a right to be able to enjoy their golden years without fear. Please, let's give them that. They have paid taxes, they've struggled out here, man. They have been our bedrock, and they've supported us to be able to be in the position that we're in. Nobody has yet to mention them. I understand the kids, I'm one of the kids. I mean, I am literally one of the kids. When you talk about the Department of Corrections, I stand here to tell you I spent most of my adult life in there. Now I've come to realize some things. The decisions I made have affected me greatly, but I'm trying to do some things. I got skin in the game. I'm paying taxes. I've been paying taxes for 15 years. Boy, I don't like that, but I pay it. I understand what it means to be part of a community, and part of the community is my seniors. That's important to me. My mama's important. And their golden years, I want to give them their flowers while they're alive. I don't want them living in fear, man. All you got to do is look at 1925. Any other channel, you're going to see it. Every day it's out there. Every day they're showing it, they're showing it, they're showing it. And these kids, and these professionals are telling you, you hear it. They're telling you. There's a direct correlation between those kids and those people who's incarcerated. I'm one of those people who've been incarcerated. And until you change your mind, nothing changes. You have to change your mind and change your mindset. And then some things will start to happen. Then you're able to start moving forward. We talk about 21. It don't take a 21. These kids are 13 killing people. These ain't 20. We're not talking about 21 yet. 13, 14. Just looking at it like it's a Nintendo game. It's a game. It's not a game. This is too important. And I'm not going to stand here. I'm going to be here every meeting. And I'm going to say something every time. No, we can't do that. Let's do something, people.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Any questions from the board? So just to be sure I didn't overlook anyone, Patricia Davis Ford, Loretta Jones, Wanda Davis. Ursula Towns? Okay.
And Ms. Towns, you have been sworn in.
Yes, she was.
My name is Ursula Towns. I'm sorry I was late. I was coming from Charleston, South Carolina.
Let's-
8643
yeah,
Woodland Walk, North Charleston, South Carolina. I am a court-appointed guardian ad litem for the state of South Carolina. Presently, I've been a guardian ad litem for a year and a half. That's how I met Miss P, Miss Peniston Blair. And I've just been taking notes. I love that man's shirt said assets over liabilities. I love how he talked about prison, but these aren't these kids. I want each of you to think about a child that you love in your life right now, and if you were the only person that child had, and you have a car accident tomorrow, where does your child go? You'll go in a facility, your child, that looks like a prison, and they'll be issued a DSS, social worker, and a guardian ad litem like me. And they'll be in a place that locks doors, that treats them like they're a prisoner. This is what most of these kids in South Carolina experience every day. As a matter of fact, I have 3 whose father was killed in a car accident, that have been split up, that they're always running away because they just want to be together, but nobody wants to take them. When I met Miss P, one of the first children I saw, the first thing I loved about it, it looked like a home. That's what most of these kids miss, a home. Then they want to be loved because either someone has died and their circumstances place them there. Not most of the time their behavior. 99.9% of the children that she has in her home or that you see in these facilities that are foster children or orphanages, which is a proper word, but just like we used to say mental retardation, now we say disabilities, the word evolves. Because it's a stereotype, it's a stigma. So nobody uses the word orphanage anymore because what child wants to go to school and say they live in an orphanage? Do you know what that looks like? Well, Miss P does, Miss Peniston Blair, that's what the girls call her. So she makes sure their hair is done. She makes sure they're dressed accordingly so they can fit in. The young lady that I used to come from Charleston, because Charleston had no place for her. And I would drive to Columbia at least every other week. Gas money I don't get from the state because I volunteer as a guardian ad litem. So I don't get paid for this job. This is my job. So I would go there, and guess what? In three years she was behind in her education. Miss P got her to graduate high school. And attorney, I'm sorry to inform you, DSS...
Ma'am, I'm sorry, you have to direct all your questions and comments to us.
The attorney stated that DSS does not keep children over 18. That is not true. What happens is DSS doesn't inform their caseload is so...
That's your time, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, but thank you. Any questions from the board?
Thank you. Graduate college.
Ms. Antoinette Gibson, you aren't speaking, correct? Oh, Dr. Gibson, my apologies.
Hello.
Dr. Gibson, before you get started,
Yes, sir.
you have not yet been sworn in, is
I
that
have
correct?
not.
Okay, if you just hold 1 second. Are there any other individuals who are expected to speak that have not been sworn in yet? All right, so Dr. Gibson, if you would raise your right hand. You are under oath and are being recorded, so please, no, that's not what I want to say. Do you swear to affirm that the testimony you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you very much.
First, good afternoon. How you guys doing today? I am an educator for over 15 years, and I just want to speak on the education aspect of HA Cares and what it has done. Just like the previous speaker just told you, Ms. Blair, I'm used to calling her Ms. P. Ms. Blair has used education to basically guide them into what they could do. And she's done an excellent job with that. She has went out her way to find educators and individuals that are in the educational system to guide these children, because we know when it was in DSS, they was behind. And I got two examples. We have one girl that was 16 reading on a 4th grade level today. When she went in May, at the end of school year, she was reading 4 grades level up. And I call that remarkable as an educator. We had a young lady that could not even count or add simple math. Today, we just signed her up for Algebra 1. I call that a successful plan. And what we have done educationally, what Ms. Blair has done educationally is hands down. And I just want to thank her for that, because I am an educator and I see these kids that are in DSS custody that are not growing academically, and it's hurtful. I don't know how you're going to make it when you can't read past a 3rd grade level. But she makes it a point to take them to get them to the library. She makes it a point for one of us to go to the school and see what they're missing and what we can do. I can't speak on nothing else in regards to zoning or anything else, but I can speak on what she has done for those girls and educational-wise. They on an honor roll. One is a member of the state for barbering. If you had the time to sit down and talk to the girls, they can tell you their growth. They've lost their parents. They lost all motivation, and they come here and they get the motivation. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any questions? Charles Hill, Stuart Boyles. Yes, ma'am. Once we call your name, you're just supposed to come down to the podium and wait your turn. What was your name?
Loretta Jones, Oral.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I called you a while back, but yes, ma'am. Give her 1 second because I called her prior to you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Loretta Jones Oram. My address is 423 Torwood, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203. I am a retired teacher, 39 years of children, 4-time Teacher of the Year, 1-time district teacher. My whole life has been about education. My family is filled with educators, and Miss Blair grew up all Sunday dinners and all her life hearing about education, hearing the problems of children, and how do we find solutions. I'm amazed. When Polly went off from college and graduated, she went and taught in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's where she got her first experience. She worked in a group home, and she talked about it all the time, about what she wanted to see done. She did grow up in a home with foster children, but she went on with her master's degree. She has a 2nd master's and almost finished with her doctorate. And as an educator, as her aunt, I was her mentor and her sounding board. When there were problems that she's teaching, she would call me. When I had problems, I would call her. We would do our research. We would talk about it. We would talk to people. But most of all, we understood the children. And if something doesn't change, everybody can say, not me. But if something doesn't change, we all have to live in the society. And so we have to be a part of the children's lives to make it better. And I'm going to stop there because there's a lot that could be said. I know my time is up, but I do know this. Her staff is a hardworking staff. I've seen them with my own eyes. I've gone to football games where she's exposing them to college football games. The girls are taken to games. Sometimes people talk, but have people really stopped and gone into her home to see? I've decorated the home at Christmas time. I am a volunteer, been sled checked for the home, but I'm happily retired, so I kind of work to the side, but I go in and I look, I see, I make suggestions to Polly where needed. Usually I don't have many suggestions because her staff has been trained, so much in-service training. It's a lot of stuff that we can't get all out here today to you, but I'm talking about I've been in the home. I've gone on trips that they're on, and half the time they don't even know I'm there. I'm just additional eyes. We want to make certain the children are safe. But children with trauma will present a lot of different things to you. They will scream, they will holler, and it doesn't have to be in a group home. It could be in your own home. Children have experienced trauma. And you know what? I live in a suburban area, and ambulances and polices and everything are always coming through, and I'm happily retired. But that's a part of life. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions?
Yeah, questions for me. I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. You're fine. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Hill.
my name is Stuart Boyles, and I live at 2051B, Harry Buckerton Road, which is right across the street. We got a peaceful community. It's very peaceful and it's very quiet. The new home, it's been a problem, but we don't want another home. We want to maintain our peace and maintain our good neighborhood. What they're going to do now is interfere our neighborhood with excess of more crime. Not saying that they are criminals, but they are definitely dysfunctional. Not saying in a bad way, but they got problems. So why bring these problems to our neighborhood? And the main thing about bringing the problems to the neighborhood, the ones that are bringing the problems to the neighborhood, they don't live in the neighborhood. So why, if you're all for this, why not put it in your neighborhood? Let it be in your house or across the street from your house, but in your neighborhood. Why put it in my neighborhood? And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Boyles. Does anyone have any questions? Charles Hill, are you speaking? If you're here. Esther Samuels, and I may be saying this wrong because I can't really. It's Easter Samuel. Okay, Easter Samuel. Are you speaking, ma'am? No, I'm not speaking today. Okay, thank you. Valerie Samuels Brown and Troy Green. Are you speaking, sir? Did we overlook anyone before we go back to hear from? The chair would like to hear from Yvonne Murray Boyles.
Is there anyone who's been omitted and has not had an opportunity? Okay, so Ms. Boyles, I wanted to ask you one question because this is a follow-up to something that you had brought up, and we had asked the administrator to get us some additional information, and this was about the previous listing.
Correct.
So do you want to respond to the fact that the previous listing did have some additional information, but that it was under the same zoning or special, let me get the correct, special exception requirements?
Well, the initial zoning notice was placed on March 16, 2023, case SE-004, residential care facility for adolescent males. And we were here, but there wasn't a quorum. So this was actually supposed to be only a continuation. Then we got a sign that said, single-family resident, something about 40 lots. That was put up July 29th. And I believe maybe about 4 or 5 days ago, a new sign went up, but was taken down prior to today. I believe it was taken down, let's see. It was taken down about 2 days ago, so it was taken down prior to the allotted time. But the basis for this meeting has changed probably 4 times. So either it's a residential care facility, an orphanage, you're establishing lots for 40 lots. So we just knew always that it was a residential care facility. It's never been anything besides that. I don't care what's on the paper now because it sounds good to hear the word orphanage. And it sounds good. And I really agree with a lot of what they're saying. They are a family of educators. I've known them the entire time I've lived on Hayward Brockton Road. I believe in uplifting children, but at the end of the day, the question is, right here on this form, special exceptions. Does it change the dynamics of my community? Does it increase noise, traffic? Is it going to be adversely affecting how we move along aesthetically? And I believe if the board looks at 5, 6, 7, and 12, examine all the information, including the police records, you will actually see that and they would have had to meet all 12. And I know, based on what's been presented, they can.
So thank you very much, because I did want you to get an opportunity to have a rebuttal, since you did bring up an issue that we did have to get additional clarity on. I did not want that to preclude you from having an opportunity to sort of speak on that. I do want to say this, though, because we did point out before we started here that I made this statement that you are under oath and being recorded, so please don't promise to do something that you're not prepared to do. And don't fail to say something that is material to what you intend to do. So I want to make that statement, because I do want to just have that on the record. And I also want to indicate I was here at the last time that you all came forth, and so that meeting did not go forth because we didn't have a quorum.
Correct.
And so I'll be honest with you, this is really the first time that I've had a chance to really see these documents. So what I'm going to be adjudicating on today is the documents that are in front of me. So I do want you to be aware of that, and to just acknowledge that I'm aware that this has been put off for a while, and that this is an opportunity for us to get to the to come to some form of conclusion around where we are with this. So with that being said, thank you very much. I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
And so are there any other persons to be heard under the public comment portion? So. Yeah, I want to bring you back up, because I just want to see if there's anybody else for the public hearing portion, because you do have an opportunity. Yeah, it says that after we've done public hearings, then the applicant, if necessary, will be allotted 5 minutes. So I do want to give you, if there are no other comments, then I do want to give you an opportunity for your 5-minute rebuttal.
And 1 second, Ms. Peniston Blair, 1 second. Mr. Price, I do have a question. Under the special exception requirement on the recommendation form that we received in the packet, we have already acknowledged that there was an error with adolescents boys, correct, under the discussion tab?
Yes.
Okay, so is that going to be amended, or is that just something that's going on the record that's changed to something else?
So right now, it was called before the meeting that's been changed. And based on whatever decision you make, the order that will be completed by staff will include the term girls, and it will also have the correct number of 12.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, Mr. Chipotle Peniston Blair, you have your 5 minutes for your rebuttal.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, just for the record, I'll point out that, just for correction, that this was not a continuation from your previous meeting. I think as you were kind of alluding to, because we didn't have a quorum, we could not have the meeting, thus that meeting never took place, thus there's no continuation. This is a brand new meeting.
So I will have the record reflect that this is not a continuation. There was not a quorum at the last meeting, so that we are not continuing that particular meeting, that this is a brand new hearing, just so the record will reflect. And so at this time, we'll give the applicant an opportunity to rebut.
Thank you. In essence, a child can stay in DSS custody if it is court-ordered until the age of 21. Also, individuals, residents, children, when they turn the age of 18, they have the right to sign themselves and sign a VPA agreement to stay in DSS custody if they have no address to report to, or they are in jeopardy of being in poverty. they may be aware that the family that they are returning to may not have the resources to care for them. So once they turn 18, they are offered a VPA agreement to stay in DSS custody. Also, being a DSS provider, I am not DSS. I am a provider for DSS. Even if a child is having a situation where they may be exhibiting defensive risk behavior and they just walk to the end of the driveway past the mailbox, and we know that she is going to return just when she just have some downtime, which we call tension reduction. Even if we know she's turning around and walking back down the driveway, we have to call the law once she steps off the property past the mailbox. That is DSS. I am a DSS provider. Anything can happen to a child once they leave the property, and we have to follow protocol. In conclusion, if everyone decides that as a population, and a population is defined as a group of individuals who are in the same category. Populations make up communities. These children need someone to not give them false hope, but hope along the way to a bright future. Our children in South Carolina, they are in need. I believe the number was 1,900. 3,000 plus in care, 1,900 are transient. I am asking for those 12 beds. I stand as a child advocate. Yes, I am the granddaughter of William Boyles, late William Boyles, the late William Boyles. The late William Boyles. My name is Shapali Boyles. My father is Thomas Boyles. And I stand in representation of the Boyles family, because the Boyles family, William Boyles Sawmill, he employed 99.8 of his community. 90% of my employees are from the community. So building communities is not just about the adults. It's about the populations within the community, the children and the adult that make up the community. So yes, today I am Shapali Boyles, but today I am in representation of child advocacy. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, being that this is a public hearing, any comments need to be made into the microphone?
So I was just asking my colleagues if they needed an opportunity for us to meet. And I know that there were some documentations that were presented today. I feel like I need to at least review those documents so that I would have an opportunity to have all the information that was presented today for consideration. And so I feel as if I need an opportunity to review those documents. And so I would entertain a motion to recess for a few minutes so that we can review the documents that were presented.
Okay, I mean, you have a couple of options, and I'll speak on this. I know it's first meeting for a lot, but so you have a couple of options. There's a good bit of paperwork here. You've also received some other additional information. You can recess until such time that everybody individually has a chance to kind of go over this, because if I'm correct, you're in a quasi judicial manner. Really shouldn't be any other discussion amongst you outside of this particular setting and open. If you feel that there's some additional time that's necessary in which you want to review this testimony, what you can do is, to get the right terminology, you can defer any motions on this until the next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, and I think we have that scheduled for the first Wednesday of September. We do have another case, and at such time, after you review, you can then go back into your deliberation period, and not necessarily have an open public hearing on this, to give you additional time to review the documentation that was presented.
So I want to make sure that I'm clear. There's an option for us to review the documents and then come back and conclude this at the next hearing. And is there an option for us to review the documents and make a decision on this today?
You can do that now. We can actually we can give you the paperwork, but I don't know, they would need they can't recess to do this, right? Can they just do it here? Yeah, when you're not recessing, we'll give you all of the documents and you will look at them here, right? Currently, while we're still, in session for this public hearing.
So I would like to point out, first of all, that, yes, I see the need. It's pretty obvious. There's 5 things that I'm looking at. Criteria for special exception. Traffic impact, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Vehicle safety and pedestrian safety, I don't think that's brought up as an issue. Potential impact, noise, lights, fumes, obstruction, airflow on adjoining property, that's an issue. And I'm trying to figure it out, because I hear the need. I mean, that's we're all called to look after the children and whatnot, but I can only look at these 5 things that I'm trying to decide on. And I have not got past item 3, the adverse impact, because I hear it, but then I don't know what those documents say. Is it because somebody stepped off the property 500 times and they were called 500 times? If you lived around me growing up, you would hear my mom yelling at me. You'd hear the domestic things going on, but I'm having a hard time discerning the potential impact on the adjacent property owners. So that's,
One of the things that we're called to do is to review the testimony and then to vote our conscience. So we are not able to adjudicate or even to pontificate about that from this vantage point. You've got to hear the testimony, and then we have an opportunity to vote our conscience. One of the things I'm trying to ascertain at this point is, are we ready to see the documentation and call for a vote today? Or do we want to see the documentation and hold that for consideration for the next meeting? And that's something we...
Mr. Chair, I would like to enter into a motion, if you would accept it, that we have a chance to view all the documentation, go into deliberation, and make a final decision and present it into the body on September 6th.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we review the documentation and make the decision at the next Board of Zoning Appeal meeting. And we will entertain a vote.
for discussion. When is that? How long could this go on?
Well, the motion was that we would make a deliberation at the next Board of Zoning meeting.
Which is not scheduled.
No. It is scheduled. It is scheduled.
It just allow us to look at all the documentation that's been presented that we cannot do that in an hour.
And we're looking to understand the potential impact, and we're looking at the adverse impact.
Which will be the rebuttal information that's down there that we haven't had a chance to look at.
You will use the information that was presented today. We did make in our opening statement the fact that evidence could be presented to us today. And evidence has been presented to us today. So this is an opportunity for us to review the evidence that was presented to us, to take that into consideration, and then we all come back with our own vote of our own conscience at the next board meeting. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. So at this time, I would entertain a vote.
Okay.
Take the motion.
The motion is that we would review the evidence that was presented and be prepared to vote on this particular case at the next meeting.
I second that motion, that we review this documentation and make a determination and provide a decision at the next meeting.
I will thank you for that, but we already have a second on the floor. That's all right. We got a motion and a second.
And again, just for the record, this will be placed on the September, I think, 6th Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. And for you to take up, I would not necessarily state for y'all to make a decision at that meeting, because you're kind of tying yourselves in. But really, the point of it is that you want to have time to review these records, and then you will take this matter up at your September 6th meeting and kind of see where it goes from there, because there may be something else that comes up. All right, so we have a motion essentially for deferral of this matter until the September 6th Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Those in favor, Fulmer, Reese, Hendricks, Nelson, Lotzenheiser, Copeland, Cahoon. All right, so that motion passes. So this matter will be brought back before you at the September 6th meeting.
I do want to say something to the people here.
And that is without a public hearing, correct?
That's correct. So I do want to say something, because I know you have been waiting, and because I know the last time we had this in front of us, just because I want to make sure that we are absolutely clear on every single thing that we receive, that the decision that we make is an absolute thorough one. This is the reason that I want to make sure we take into consideration everything that was presented here. So at the next meeting, we won't go through this timely part of the process. That will have been done, but we definitely will be ready to render a decision at that meeting. So I want you all to be clear on where we are, because I know you've been waiting for a while, and I don't want you to think that we are putting this on the back burner, but this is definitely a thing that we will adjudicate and deliberate and adjudicate at our very next meeting first thing. So I thank you for your patience. I want to make sure that when it's done correctly, and that we won't have any concerns or any issues, particularly from our legal department. So thank you very much. With that said, make sure.
And being that, and for everyone here, we post properties, whether it be for the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Planning Commission, or even County Council for the zoning public hearing. The intent of posting the properties is to allow for public input, to give notification, as there would not be the public hearing portion has been held already, and that will not be taken up for this particular case at the September meeting, that the property will not be posted for the next meeting. So just for everyone that's here, they can come in and witness the decision of the board, but the property will not be posted, as there would be no public hearing.
Let the record reflect. So the other thing, item number 8 on the agenda is any other business. Is there any other business that this board needs to entertain? Hearing none, then it is time for adjournment, and it is 5:18 p.m. And so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move a motion that we adjourn at this time and reconvene on September 6th.
Second that.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn this meeting. It is 5:19. We stand for a vote.
All right, those in favor of adjournment?
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you all.